Town Band Banter with Doc and Dave. Every week, two longtime friends and colleagues in the world of music, David Price and Donald Doc Smith, get together to discuss the triumphs as well as the twists and turns of lifelong learning for the dedicated members of thousands of civilian community music ensembles of every shape and size. Your comments and suggestions are always welcomed through email as info@townbandbanter.com, Facebook, Town Band Banter, and Instagram, #TownBandBanter. And now for our hosts, Doc and Dave.
Okay, Dave, you ready? Here we go. Season
ready.
number
Oh
2, episode number 4. We're thrilled to be here at Robert's Music and with Terri and Rob Vivieros, who are the owners, proprietors, and run this place. And we certainly want to welcome them. We're so glad that we got this to work. You know, it is a crazy time of year.
Yeah,
We started this whole thing last April, and it was easier to get guests in the spring for some reason. Spring seems busy, but for this business, with rentals and everything else, this is the crazy time of year, but so important. I mean, we're going to cover this a little bit later, but how many careers, lifelong learners in music started here in this shop, you know, because of a demonstration somewhere by a teacher, or you go out and do demos as well, and they're going to do this for the next 80 years, you know, but it doesn't happen on its own. So it's really, really critical, and I feel very, very comfortable working with you folks. This isn't, we're going to probably do the other music stores in the state. I found
Are there other ones?
Yeah, there absolutely are. As a college director, the first thing I would do.
He's my new favorite.
Yeah, right. The first thing I would do is find out, you know, who are the repair shops, particularly in music suppliers in the state where I was, and develop a relationship with all of them, and find out what they did best, and make sure they had a piece of the pie. Everyone had a piece of the pie, and it turned out that I've done most of my business with you, you know, and been thrilled by it the whole way through. I don't know if I ever told you, I was part of a music store in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. While I was writing my dissertation for 2 years, Don Randall Music was a mom and pop store, one in one mall and another one in a strip mall. I was at the strip mall. And they hired me because they needed someone to help with rental program and all of that. But I found myself spending most of my time at the mall, out front playing organs and pianos and stuff like that.
Yeah. The musical equivalent of the sign spinner.
And running a shop, you know, like learn how to do the retail side of it. And it was so educational for me. It's something that should be covered more in music preparation, you know, music teacher preparation. Because if you don't understand that, it makes it harder to make some of this work. So I thought we start with maybe just your background. You know, like how did you get to here?
All right.
Who wants to start?
Sure, I'll start. Well, it was kind of both paths at the same time. So we actually met in college as music majors, so we were already musicians coming into this.
What college?
Rhode Island College.
Okay.
My dad, Bill Jones, was the chairman for years there and music education director and so forth. So Rob was brave. He dated the chairman's daughter. But that's, he was a brave man. But no, it all worked. But that's how we got to know each other. And I play the harp, and Rob is a woodwinds guy, saxophone, flutes, clarinets. So we had a shared interest there. And then in the 90s, I took off for a little while and went to the software world, even though I was still playing.
Right.
But in the 90s, Rob ended up downtown at Axelrod's.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's just one of those things that happened. I was a musician, but working at a convenience store, and the manager of Axelrod came over and said, "I know you. You should come and work for me. You shouldn't work here." And that kind of started it. Started at Axelrod in the early 90s. Worked there for a long time, and then Richard Robert was looking to sell his store in '99.
Right, that's how we got Robert's Music. It's not because your name is Rob.
Right.
You know, it's
his last name was Robert.
Dick Robert was, you know, so it's Roberts with an apostrophe S.
So
and
took the name
he
too.
called me and said, "Do you want to buy my store?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know." So I went home and talked to Terri, and I said, "This is kind of weird." And she's like, "Well, it's an opportunity." So worked with the SBA and stuff like that, came up with a plan, and in 2000 we bought the store.
And Bank Rhode Island said, yeah, sure, we believe in you guys. Here's some money. And we went, for real?
Right. Yeah.
But here we are.
And then
We're
a few
not.
months
24
later, we
years.
talked, and you
Yeah.
said,
4 years
it's
later,
not big enough. You know, like
Yeah.
it's,
Oh my
and
gosh,
no, well, the
we
ditch
really-
was
no, I mean,
small
yeah,
to
we,
start.
Yeah, we started down the road from here. It was a 2,800 square foot space,
Right.
and we had to be there as a part of the whole entire bank
Yeah.
agreements,
Oh,
that kind
right.
of thing. So we had to be there for 7 years, and at the end of 7 years, we were like, oh my goodness, we need to get out of here. And
It's too small.
the current location was half the size, but
And
and expanded when the soccer shop next door that was here ended up leaving, and
So we were in
blew
a
it
current
open and-
footprint.
Kicked out.
Yeah, our current footprint.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I won't do that.
pun intended.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
Right?
So-
I almost slipped by.
So 2018, you double the size of this?
Just
how many square
about.
feet are you at now?
We went
About
from
4,000.
4,100 to
66,
67.
somewhere in there.
Wow.
So yeah,
Square
added
feet,
another
yeah.
2,600 square feet.
Yeah, before that you were
So-
I mean, in the first store you couldn't run events, special events,
no,
but
no.
you didn't really and then you started doing that when you had the 4,100 square
Right.
foot.
And it was still
We
tight.
did like the Allstate workshops and things
Yeah.
like
Right,
that
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, we
But-
had Phil Woods in here, and we had probably about 60 saxophone players just
Oh, is it?
packed to the gills, with no extra room, and
This is before
and,
COVID, right?
And
So-
Phil looked at me and he said, "I didn't think there were this many saxophone players in Rhode Island."
Right.
And I was like, "No," I said, "Everybody loves him."
Yep.
So,
Right.
and so when that opportunity came, it was great, so that we can have more events.
We love
and
doing it. So we'll have our saxophone day and our brass day
Right.
and our flute clarinet day, and there are free events that you can just come and learn, and there's clinics, and hey, if you want to buy something, we like that too.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole point of the day. It's really, look at this community of people that we have all together. Look at all these people doing their music on whatever level, whether recreationally or professionally. They just love it and want to do it more, and it's yet another way to work with our adult learners, our recreational music makers, our community band and orchestra members, and that's
teachers.
a
we
big
just
part of what we
this
do.
Saturday we just had a RIMIA event. We brought in Brendan Carnio because he's doing a presentation at the National Convention for NAM, the National Association of Music Merchandisers.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's going out and doing an education clinic out there. So he needed to record it.
Yeah.
So
So we
I
had
threw
the
it past RIMIA and said, "What do you think of doing this for PLUs?" And they were like, "That is a great idea."
Right.
And it was great. It was a really nice event that we did after the
Yeah.
store closed on Saturday. So it was,
Right.
it was
And
really,
it's,
really good.
it's great to be able to do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
So rewind just a little bit. So
Yeah.
I know you as a harpist, right?
Yes.
What was your major? Were you a harp major?
I
at
was
Rhode
a
Island
harp
College?
major.
Okay.
I started off as music performance, maybe education. Ended up like none of those were really where I wanted to be.
Right.
So I just got a Bachelor of Arts. But yeah, that I was a harp major. That was my thing.
And you're an
And-
amazing teacher of harp too. So there's that part of it. It's just that.
I definitely, I don't do as much of it now, but when I was doing it
Yeah.
like 5 years ago and before COVID and so forth, it definitely loved that part of it. And really, almost all of our stuff we do here has some level of education in it anyway.
Absolutely.
Because if you're going to be a musician, unless you're already a fully trained musician and you're really up on your skills and knowledge of your instrument and so forth, getting involved in this, it's a huge learning curve. And you have to have people that you can trust and that know what they're doing. So for us, it becomes a very educational sell, because we want the long-term benefit for both sides of the purchase. So you
Right.
really need to understand what you're getting into, the options, why this and not that, and ask the questions, and know you're not going to be misled. And especially if you're an adult getting back into it, or if you played when you were younger, but what's going on now, and what are the things to get now, and what's the best way to approach getting into it, whether we know or some of our staff know or some of our teachers know, we've got a lot of resources for that.
Yeah.
Right, but it's that
You
it's
know?
that moment of when the parents have to get out a checkbook.
Oh yeah.
And it's the first kid
Oh,
that has
yeah.
ever played anything in the whole family. And that's what you are wonderful at. Everyone in the staff is, but particularly, like I've seen Terry do this
Thank
so many
you.
times.
Thank
And
you.
you wonder, why is he standing there? Because I'm enjoying the show.
Yeah.
Be seeing this moment start that might start a career for 80 years of playing an instrument.
Yeah.
And they're their kids and their grandkids, because that moment happened and it went well.
Yeah.
And you advise them the right way to get into that rental program or whatever it happens to be,
Yeah.
mostly rental.
Over the past few years, we've started getting the kids of kids.
They're our
So-
grand
Oh,
customers.
Our grand customers.
Yep.
So-
You
And we-
find that teaching.
And
Right.
we had
Yeah.
said, right, we
You
had
know.
said that right at the
And
beginning,
it,
like, we want to do this well enough that these 10-year-olds, when it's their turn, are happy bringing their kids to us. All of a sudden, we're there.
Yeah.
And it's the
Yeah.
coolest thing. It's
Right.
really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And you
I
have
love that.
grandkids too. I mean, just
Just
the whole mix when we're
one
doing
Right.
that
brand
half.
new little guy,
Yeah.
and we're like,
Oh, wow.
You don't
Yeah.
look old
Yeah.
enough to have grandkids,
Yeah.
but you have
Yeah.
grandkids.
Yeah.
But it's running it as a family business.
yeah.
The family's part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, your kids have worked here.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know?
they've certainly helped out
Yeah.
for sure. Our son is
Yeah.
working behind the scenes for us now
Uh-huh.
still. And we
Yeah.
have customers that come in and they'll be like, "Oh, no baby." We're like,
Right.
"Sorry."
Yeah.
You can't
And
always
we
have
are,
them.
we are
No,
not
no.
quite open yet, so we are ignoring
Yeah.
the phone. Don't
No,
think
I
we're
get.
horrible
Yeah,
people.
no, that's right. Yeah, we are not. You're always open for business because
Right.
people call
Right.
24/7.
They do.
Yes.
They do. We're
Oh,
not
my-
here
my cell phone's
24/7,
not on
so
me.
that's
Oh my God.
good.
Well, it's late morning, but you've already been out at
Yeah,
the
at
school.
school.
Yeah,
and
I
that's the
did my
service
road
part
route,
of this.
You know,
For
serviced
sure.
a few schools.
For sure.
And Jamie, was Jamie out as well? The
Uh,
No, he was out.
Yeah.
He was out this morning,
Okay.
and he just came back. He's got a customer meeting here in a little bit before we open and so forth. But yeah, there's people in the repair shop right now, and office crew is going to start coming in at some point soon. So yeah, we're ramping up for the day.
It is,
So
it is amazing.
Yep.
So, Rob, you're a woodwind major.
I was a
What was your
saxophone major.
sax major,
Yeah,
right?
saxophone major.
And then
So-
what you played in a lot of different. I mean, your connections are not just music ed and at the college. You
No.
played out a lot in
Yeah,
different gigs. And
yeah. No,
I want to
for
definitely get
years,
into
did a lot of
Lusitano
subbing
band,
in
too.
bands, and well, yeah, that's kind of where I started as a kid. And it wasn't even saxophone; it was clarinet. I loved playing saxophone primarily, but my teacher handed me a clarinet and said, "This is what we're going to do." And I said, "Every other week, bring a clarinet." Being in a big Portuguese family, my dad had met John Soares, who was the Lusitania. He was actually, prior to Lusitania, was St. John of God Band in Somerset.
Wow.
And John knew my dad and said, "Hey, you know, Robert should come and play for me." So I started playing clarinet because my dad came home and said, "Oh," he said, "John wants you to go to and play in the band." I said, "Oh yeah, great." So I grabbed my saxophone. He said, "No, you're gonna play clarinet."
Right.
And I was like, "Wait, what? No." And he said, "Yeah, okay." So
How old were you?
so I was 11.
11.
Yeah,
okay.
I was 11.
So a little late.
So,
yeah, 9
yeah,
is like
so,
usually the starting point.
Yeah, so I mean, I had already been playing for
Oh, okay.
2-3 years.
Right.
on saxophone,
on saxophone.
no.
So did you
clarinet.
start through the rental in
So-
school?
Yes,
program?
yeah. I was
Okay.
a Massachusetts kid, Dighton, Rehoboth. So 4th grade, they did their demo. They had the saxophone. I went home, said to my parents, said I want to play saxophone. My dad was a construction truck driver, not a musician at all.
Right.
And he said, "I don't even know what that is." And I said, "You know, it's the fat guy on Sha-Na-Na, Lenny.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You know,
there
that's,
you go.
that's what I want to do." My dad was like, "Okay." So,
we didn't do demos
yeah,
of
yeah.
sax, but I didn't even,
Right.
I didn't even touch that.
Well, I mean,
you know?
especially 4th grade. I mean, it was like,
Yeah.
you know, but back then they were just like, "What do you want to play?
Right.
Okay, go ahead and play it." You
Yeah.
know, so that, and then, but clarinet, and then, like I said, I started with St. John of God Band, and then John took over the Lusitania Band when I was 12, and I played from when I was 12 until into college.
So, and you
So-
toured. How many times did you travel to Portugal?
Never.
Oh, you
no,
never
no,
did?
it was
You missed the
prior.
boat on
I
that.
missed that.
The
yeah.
Lusitania band.
Yeah.
That's one of
Yeah,
the big
yeah.
things.
No, that was
because
that
you-
was after me. So
Because you
know.
play all those parades
Yeah.
and everything to
Your
raise
agent
money
is
I
to
know.
pay for the band.
Yeah, so that was after
just
me.
started
No, we
later.
just did all of the feasts from everywhere from Boston all the way into
Right.
Connecticut, and it's just like every Sunday was a different Portuguese
Right,
feast.
absolutely. Are you
know,
playing
so,
feasts
yeah.
all
Yeah.
every weekend? That's what you're doing.
But, I
kind
mean,
of
it
like
was
the kids
great.
in competition band, marching band, are tied
Oh,
up
yeah.
all weekend long. But it's a whole other
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
But they always get something out of it.
Yeah.
Those trips.
Yeah.
Yeah, early on when we started doing these podcasts, we did a fair amount of research, and our first podcasts were really about the Portuguese influence here in New England. in
Oh,
particular.
there
God,
you go.
yeah.
How many
Yeah.
bands there were,
Yeah.
tons of them, and
Yeah.
how important they were in just in music education,
Mhm.
because early on there were a lot of schools that did not have music programs.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they developed their own music programs, and how they
Yep.
use solfege
Yeah,
was another.
Lusitania always had a school, so any of the people who came to the club, they wanted their kid to play an instrument,
Yep.
they would get the kid an instrument and teach the kid how to play, and then they would end up in the band. You know, so back when I was in it, it was a lot bigger. So Jamie Rodriguez is the conductor of the band now. He works for us, and so Jamie every once in a while asks me, you know, can you come back and play? So I'll pick up my clarinet and I'll go in and sight read some band music for, you know, the band dinner or the soup festival, that
A
kind
lot
of
of it's
thing.
probably
So,
hidden in the back of
you
your,
know,
your
yeah,
head
you
somewhere.
know,
But those
you know,
things too, like those are such a good opportunity for people to be involved in their community music. I mean, look
Right.
for
Yeah.
them, right? So if you're trying to get back into it, that's one of so
Yeah.
many opportunities. You know, once you're either done with school and done playing, or you played once upon a time and are looking to do it again, where do you go?
Right.
Where do you go?
Well, listen,
Right?
see, with
And
that
that's the
plant,
whole
that
community
seed
band and
planted in you,
orchestra.
it wasn't, you know, like, okay, I'm done with high school now. So
Right.
I'm
Oh,
finished. Well, how
yeah,
many kids
yeah.
end up middle school, you
Yeah.
know, and then they go into a high school, and do I join the high school band? There's always that extra option with Lusitana,
Yep.
and then the other community bands. We try to get the young kids,
Yep.
but it gets harder and harder. And then college, after the college band, how do you top that?
Yeah.
But a lot of people take a little bit of a break, and then they come back.
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
They really miss
And
it.
they do, and it's also the community bands are definitely. And I mean, there's like community bands that will take almost beginners. There's community bands that are, or in orchestras that are borrowing music from the Philharmonic. I mean, there's such a range of levels,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity where, okay, the pressure's a little bit off. You're no longer getting a grade on it. You've decided maybe it's not your career path, so you don't have to be, you know, first chair all the
Right.
time, never cracking a note or whatever. You can just show up and do your music.
Yeah, and enjoy
And
it.
that's the point of it at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
point. And it's such a good environment.
So Bristol has the string part because you do
Yeah,
strings as
community-
well,
right,
which
so-
is actually growing for you,
Yeah.
right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a slow and steady growth point, and now we have a lot of schools that we're their vendor for strings as well as for band, and you know we've got some great teachers here and so forth. But as far as community organizations, one that we've been happily watching grow over the years is Community String
Right.
Program over in
Bristol.
Bristol,
Yeah.
where they have kid and adult groups and so forth, beginners through advancing.
Orchestra and guitar.
And
You know, they-
classical
they started
guitar now,
classical.
too.
Oh, I didn't
That's
know they were
great.
doing guitar.
Yeah,
Well,
I
that makes
forgot
sense
about
because
that
that's
too,
Vicky's
yeah.
thing,
Exactly.
right? Who's now the
exactly.
new director.
Yep.
Alan Bernstein founded it
Yep.
Yep.
and got that going as
Well,
an
him
idea.
and Bob
Him and
Arsenal.
Bob
Right,
Yeah.
because they wanted Bob Arsenal wanted a string program, couldn't get it approved in
Right.
the school,
Right.
so he did his own.
Started
thing.
this.
Yes.
And thank goodness that he did. And I actually recommended a Navy family who moved here after they left the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing their two sons' lessons there, and Mom played violin. And she was beyond where I wanted to do private lessons with
Right,
her.
right.
And I said, well, go check that out. It was perfect
Yep.
for her.
Yeah.
Yep.
And perfect for them, too. I mean,
Yep.
it's like a great match.
Yeah.
And then they have that connection with the Naval War College.
Yeah, there you
With
go.
people going in and out,
Yep.
there's a lot, which is another thing. So I did Don Randall music in Lancaster. That's
Mm-hmm.
no big deal. And in Pennsylvania, there were tons of stores. The fascination for me here in the state is that there's never been a successful music store on Aquidneck Island. You have a 120-piece Portsmouth High School band. You have the Middletown music program. You have the Newport music program.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the world-famous Newport Jazz Festival, Newport,
Yeah.
folk music, and now they're calling it Newport Classical, which was brilliant too.
Okay.
There is
Yep.
all this music that's going on at all levels. That was a center for jazz too. The Red Parrot used to be the
Right.
jazz club in Newport, and yet no music store has ever survived over there.
But you know what,
It's a
too?
community.
It is, but it's also, there's a lot of music over there, but it's somewhat sporadic because there's a lot of families in and out.
Right?
And
Maybe.
yes, it's a big deal with the festivals, but that's only one weekend for each one of them.
Right.
So unless you really have the draw, and great for tourists and so forth and folks that live on the island,
Right.
going across those bridges to get to the island. There's not a lot of, like, you're not going to draw a lot from other parts of the state per se, and it's hard to support a store without a big diverse clientele and offering. And
Well,
what
the locals
do.
go now because of all the big sales that are going on in the
Yeah.
stores. They're selling
There
out
you
all
go.
of their inventory
Right.
Yeah.
and getting ready for next year.
Yep.
And they have the cruise industry too, but that's not going to support a music store. But
No.
it just always fascinated me that there had never been a music store based
Yeah.
there. You know, it's
Right.
kind of odd. There were other ones around the state, you know, but this is certainly, you guys are centralized, which really
We
helps.
are.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now we're at the point where we've got a lot of Rhode Island, obviously, but we've also got a nice draw from Connecticut and Massachusetts and so
Oh, right.
forth. And
Good.
yeah, they just, I mean, we try to do a great job for everybody, so that seems to be working well for us. But also, we've got a very strong repair shop.
Right.
We've got good brands and so forth, so it's worth it to take the trip down and partake. So
Good.
yeah.
I'm still the kind of shopper that I like to feel and touch it and see
Oh,
it, and everything else in the
Right.
store is full
Yeah.
of all the Christmas presents now. You're starting
Oh,
Yeah,
to like
sure.
all
Yeah.
of those sort of
Yeah.
things,
Yep.
but supplies. I mean, all these
Yeah.
people from beginners all the way through professionals need reeds and they need
Yep.
repairs,
Right.
and you guys do
Yep.
really well at doing that. So the business model, how does the business model fit with what percentage are school programs? Probably the vast majority,
Yeah,
right?
really good, like 60,
Yeah,
65.
no, the backbone of the business is definitely.
Yeah, that's what we're built on, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's our specialty. That's really, that's what we do the most and do the best. We do a lot of other really good things,
Yeah.
but we're really kind of proud of what we do for the schools and the musicians,
Just
the up and
curious,
coming
the
ones.
impact of, so what was the impact of with COVID?
Well, okay,
Is
so
this in
here's
a difficult area?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I was just
here's-
curious.
So I jokingly say, and I don't mean it, that the whole shutdown may have been my fault, because at the end of 2019, I made the mistake of saying, you know what? I feel really good about where we are as a company. I feel like we're healthy, we're well responded to, we've got a great base going on, and it's predictable. Unless for some reason every school in the state decides to shut down their music program, I think we're okay. And then came March.
Yeah,
and
right.
we went,
Yeah.
oh no!
Yeah.
But no, it actually, we did okay. We never had to shut down. Yes, of course, did we have a
Yeah.
downward spike in revenue?
Sure,
Of course
everybody
we
did, yeah.
Right.
Because the kids that didn't want to be playing their instrument by themselves in their bedroom quit band.
Yeah, right.
Right.
You know, or many of them did.
But there was
So-
also other aspects that,
Yeah.
like the keyboard sales, the
And
ukulele
guitars and
guitar
ukuleles.
sales.
And that's when
all
that
these
expanded,
solo
right?
instruments
Because people
get
could
lot
sit
of
and
up,
play.
Yep.
So
And they had to be
Yeah.
home.
yeah.
And they were so sick of being on screen.
And it wasn't just kids; it was
Yeah.
adults, and a lot of those adults continued to play, and then came in. We have 11 teaching rooms here that teachers rent space
Yeah.
from us, and
19 now, 19 teachers teaching
Wow.
out of here.
You
Yeah.
know, so that once we were able to have people back in the store, that started building up again, and now so many of the teachers are full. We're still adding teachers, when we need to.
Just adding
You
another
know,
one this week, actually.
Yeah, so
Yep,
yeah.
so-
Your tech and audio wall is right behind it. I don't think it's in the shots.
Yeah.
But, it's
Yeah.
that grew a lot
It
in
did.
a period of time.
It did. It sure
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
So.
Sony microphone,
But-
specific microphones for.
And a lot of people found us too, because there were stores that did shut down.
Mhm.
And
Right.
even some of our big competition had to shut down for a little while, and people found us and they stayed,
Yeah,
which is great.
that's good.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're going into you kind of covered everything that I had talked about, which is wonderful, and it's great. So building relationships between the music industry and community ensembles. What do you see for the future? I mean, that's usually one of the questions we ask at the very end, but we have a couple we could do still.
Well, I mean, it's one of those, when we were talking the other day, and I said, we have one of our trumpet students, an adult who just joined one of the community bands, and you were like, I need that.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I talked to my trumpet teacher, and he's like, I have kids, and I think that's kind of one of the things that
Right.
we try and focus on, because school sometimes is not everything that a kid needs.
Right.
A kid may be a superstar, and they're like, I don't need anything else, I'm doing this great.
Right.
Another kid might be like, I'm just kind of here and I play and I enjoy it, but I want more. So whether that's, you know, jumping into a community band or, you know, what the Rhode Island Philharmonic youth programs have
Right.
with the wind ensemble and the orchestra.
And that didn't
So-
fit into our schedule as a family because they were
Yeah.
rehearsing on Saturdays and
Right.
it was a big karate
Yeah, and
thing. So we ended up in Boston
yeah.
with those ensembles.
Right.
And we
Yeah,
have some
yeah,
kids
gypsies.
from there.
But I think as far as your question, as far as like where do they go from here, and their relationship with music stores, I would say don't be afraid to reach out to us. We do have many of the groups that if they need supplies or whatever, we work with them, and a lot of the
Right.
members are here.
Mhm.
But if you're looking for players or hey, we definitely need trumpet players or whatever, let us know. We'll help spread the
Yeah.
word.
It's odd.
and we
I
can
do
do-
clarinets and trumpet players, which I don't have recruiting strategies for.
Yeah.
I have great recruiting strategy for tuba, for
Yeah.
bassoon,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
I know
But that's for
marching
those.
harp.
Yeah.
Marching
Is that-
harp is not a thing.
It's not in it?
No,
Okay, never
sorry.
mind then. Never
Yeah.
mind.
I'm surprised because the mummers have the marching, bass sax
Yeah.
Oh, there you
and,
go.
and the string bass
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
why not a harp?
I
you
mean,
know?
I suppose
Especially
like
put
I
on
could.
wheels.
I was just about to say like I could like sit in a wagon with the harp if
Yeah,
someone
there
wants
you
to
go.
pull me, but
Yeah.
I'm not really. I don't really have time for that right
Yeah.
now.
Maybe
so.
hook up one of those rascal scooters, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, no. Motorized harp. I don't think that's a thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And another
Yeah,
quick
yeah,
thing that popped
yeah.
in my mind was also with the popularity of homeschooling.
Oh yeah.
Have you noticed quite an influx of that happening? Because
We have a
I'm
lot.
going through that a little bit with relatives.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm teaching my niece over online or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, people come in, they've started their own little band down there
Yeah.
through you know, different families and say, okay, let's
Right.
get together and we'll do this.
Yeah.
So have you,
We have seen that. So we have
Yeah.
some students who come in here and they're actually private lessons, but it counts as their music portion.
Sure.
So we see some of that go on. And then we hear from people who, yes, they've got these little groups. There's nothing that I know of
Right.
that's bigger, but those people may also be a way for the kids to get involved. They're normally, we tend to see those kids because they have, it's a lot more one-on-one that they've had experience with.
Right.
Their skill set is a little further along than kids the same age that might be one of 30 kids in a room. You know that changes the speed that
Right,
the
yeah.
ensemble can progress on.
sure.
So that may be an area too where maybe community band or orchestra
Right.
counts as their music program. I
We
don't
have,
know
we
if
have
you guys
recommended that with some of the parents coming in. How do I get my kid
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
into something because we're not in school? And we're like, well, you know, you can look at these various, you know,
I mean, they
community
can
groups.
always, if their school in their area offers a band program, they can participate. Like, there's all sorts of ways to do that.
Sure.
Through,
Mhm.
there's protocol for that.
Sure.
But if it doesn't fit,
Right.
you know,
Right.
then maybe that's another option. That might be a really good thing to explore. And you might get a few families because they're often, from what we've seen anyway, very cohesive units.
Yeah.
Well, I
So you
always
may
ask
get brother, sister, dad.
Yeah, you
I
got
asked
it.
know?
mom and dad, what did you play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone I meet, they say, what did you
Well,
play?
yeah,
You know, so-
yeah.
That is kind of your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Almost everyone has an answer. Most of the time they say nothing. And they say, well, actually, I did do clarinet for 8 years and then I played piano for 8. You know, like, but initially they say, no, I didn't do that. I'm not a musician. All right, so let's get into these, for every guest, maybe a little bit more personal. What was your most memorable experience with the community music ensemble? I'll start with you, Rob.
I mean, for me, it's, growing up in the Lusitania band, you know, and that kind of thing. So,
was there
like
one that
that's-
stands out?
there's not really one that
You didn't get to
stands
go on the
out.
trips?
No, yeah, I missed out on that.
Well, what about a parade? There's got to be a
But
parade story.
probably there was a lot of parade stories.
Well, that's,
I mean,
yeah, we
you know,
struck a
so,
nerve.
yeah,
Ralph
yeah,
was
so-
drunk
We're limiting
again.
this to
Well,
around.
and it's one of those, and even, Jamie, this is kind of one of the Lusitania, stories of lore, where the conductor John, we were in Fall River. It was the feast that led up to St. Anne's, and we were heading up the hill, and our bass drum player couldn't be there that day, so John decided he was going to play bass drum, and he was playing, and John always had this very thick Portuguese accent. And when he would hit the drum, he'd go, trow, trow. And then all of a sudden, all I hear is, trow, trow. I don't hear the drum, because he dropped the bass drum now.
Oh, no, yeah,
So
right.
literally, he
What a break.
stopped, he's in the back row, he stopped, he took off his shoe, and started beating the bass drum up the road with his shoe.
Brilliant.
And I'm just playing clarinet, trying not to die laughing.
Yeah.
And you know, it was actually Dave Neves' brother Paul, who just passed away, was the drummer, was the snare drummer.
Right.
And Paul's just looking at me, and he's like, just started dying laughing. I mean,
Right.
so the beat, whatever he was playing, I don't know what it was, but it was just this whole entire laughter thing, and everyone's going, "What is going on?" You know, and then everyone started looking back. So like the whole entire band is just kind of like giggling and playing. So it was, I don't even know what tune it was, but no one would have recognized it anyways, because
Right, yeah.
it was just impossible
Yeah.
to play. You know, and he was just dead serious, whacking with his shoe.
I can't wait to see you, like
You
in
know.
your mallet section over there, a John
Yeah,
Soares
the
Memorial
John
beater,
Soares Memorial
drum
shoe,
beater,
yeah.
size
That's a
9.5,
good
you know, like.
Signature model.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, top that in the harp world.
No,
Or,
you
there's
know what?
community. Yeah, could you play
There's
with
co-
community
I have
choruses and
with right, and honestly, I don't know if it's maybe it's because I'm a harp. I don't even know. I don't really have the funny stories. I really, honestly, I nothing is coming to mind. I mean, great, wonderful experiences and so forth. But
I mean, just
none
carrying
of
it.
them.
There's got to be
Yeah,
some
I-
stories about just
Well,
getting it from place
I
to
did.
place.
Well, I did at one time. Well, everybody always, oh, don't you wish you played the piccolo? And I'm like, no. I mean, I get it from a transport, but then I'd be a piccolo player. No offense, I love you all,
Okay.
but I don't want to be a piccolo player. But I did have one point in a church. I had to get to this certain area, so a very nice singer was like, "Oh, well, I'll help you. We were going to lift it over," and he simultaneously asked, "So how much is this worth anyway?" As he has it in midair, and his hand slips.
Oh, no.
So the heart hits the back of the pew. It was fine. Then we put it down, and I told him how much it was worth.
Oh, no.
The white on
yeah,
his
yeah.
face was just it was great.
That sequence
But-
could have been
Yeah.
worse because you could have
Oh.
told him that's when he
Oh,
slipped. And
yeah. No, and thankfully, I mean, there was no. I mean, I think there's like a little tiny dent in the wood. I mean, nothing happened, but it sure could have.
Well, my son is the
that would've been
bass,
bad.
double bass player, and it seems like they're the bass players and the harp players are always the last ones to leave the stage.
Right.
And we always helped load.
Yeah.
You know, we always helped
Oh,
each other
yeah.
loading and,
Oh, yeah.
and what car purchases,
I was gonna
family
say,
car purchases were
It
definitely
really
relegated.
dictates what cars you get over
Oh,
the
yeah,
years. Being a
absolutely.
percussionist, same
She's
thing.
never
Yeah,
had a
exactly.
small car.
Yeah, never ever had a small.
So you
car.
should tie in, some kind of a link with the dealership, to give a special
Right.
for,
Harpists.
harpist.
Yes, yes.
All right, and
That's good, thank you. That's
what was a big challenge with an ensemble? Were there any, obvious, other than COVID? I'm sure there were other things that came up because John Soares now left Lusitana,
Yeah.
and you had to replace him.
Well, I mean,
or other
and
challenges.
honestly, that was after I left, and Gary Sebastio played
Oh.
trumpet. We grew up together.
And a
in
former
that-
student
in
of
that
mine
band.
at URI,
Yep.
yeah.
So
Small
we had,
world.
Gary and I were in the band together as kids.
Yep.
And Gary took over for a long time, and then Jamie took over. So
Right.
it was one of those where there was a nice transition with that. So they never had issues. I don't think with that.
How long has that
but
band existed?
They're going on 100 years.
100 years.
Yeah, I think
Just
we just played the band dinner. I think it was the 97th band dinner.
Right.
So yeah,
Wow.
they're approaching 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Good
So,
stuff.
yeah.
The phones are starting to
So-
ring
Oh,
because
yeah,
we're getting
yeah,
closer
yeah,
to.
yeah.
Well,
We're
we're
getting
still a
closer
half
to
hour
opening,
before
right, but
opening, but
still.
everyone's trying to get into the list.
Yeah.
You should hear them after opening
Right.
starts.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's good. Do
Yeah, it is good.
you tune them or no? I'm just kidding.
No.
It's gonna like
We set them up to play Jingle Bells next
Right,
week.
right.
No.
No.
Yeah, right, that's
all
good.
holiday tunes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been wonderful. I mean, we're right
Great.
around our target amount of
Okay.
time, and
Good.
I think we covered everything I wanted to cover, unless there's something else that we missed that is burning.
No, the only thing I would say is if you're watching this and you're either a current community ensemble member or thinking of getting into it or want to get back into it, use your resources, and we're one of them. Come in. We're approachable, we're easy, we'll take good care of you. Don't be afraid to reach out to the people who are already involved in doing it, whether it's the directors, the stores, people that, your friends have said, go ahead, it's okay, go talk to them. They're right.
Right.
Reach out and use your resources.
I mean, music education, the success is in all the way through, and it is developing and coming back after COVID. Couldn't happen without this, you know, and the community band couldn't happen without that, and the lifelong,
Thank you.
all of the things that these people get, you know, like when they leave the band and say, this has been the most important thing in my life, you know, later in life,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
it's so it's more powerful than we think. It's kind of like that harp story. You just like, you almost don't want to at that moment think about how critical this moment
Right.
is for this kid's life,
Right.
but I do take it that seriously. I always did,
Yeah.
and you do too. And
Yeah.
you know, I
It's
trust you with my
Yeah.
kids, and I trusted you with my
Yep.
with the school
Students,
programs. So thank you very much for all that. And I
Yeah.
think we can wrap it up with what we
Yeah.
always say at
We
the
always
end.
say,
Just keep on playing.